He may be ugly, but at least he's also a cheapskate. Wasugi Futaro is our protagonist, and somehow he finds a way to get a whole meal for the price of rice at his school cafeteria. Yeah, his whole family's broke. He returns to his usual table, but some chick drags it with him. He concludes that she's filthy rich after seeing what she got for lunch and keeps her quiet till she grabs his result sheet. After seeing how smart he is, she tries getting him to tutor her, but Wasugi just stands up to leave. She tries bribing him with food, but he tells her that she'll get fat, like he doesn't need to eat. Later on, our boy gets a call from his sister, and she tells him that they can pay their debts if he tutors a certain transfer student named Nakano Itsuki. His dad had even set up a deal for him to get 5 times his going rate. He later finds out that she's the one he called fat, and she angrily passes by him in class, just like every other girl in life. Despite his plans to make up with her during lunch, she sits with some other losers who look just like her. Ichika leaves the loser table with her huge melons and offers to help our boy. He stops her though, being manly and everything. As he wonders what to do, some weird chick named Yotsuba stares at him. She hands him her very poor result alongside his and follows him everywhere. Yes, even to the locker room. He then dresses as a lame mascot and waits for Itsuki outside school, but some goth chick named Miku threatens to report him for staring at high school girls. He gets to Itsuki's building and gets told off by an angry girl named Nino. He rushes past her, but still doesn't catch Itsuki's elevator. His weak ass manages to take the stairs, and he catches her right outside her apartment. They then resolve the misunderstanding, only for all the weird chicks our boy had run into to turn up like he was getting an intervention. His dumb brain can't comprehend what's happening until Itsuki announces that they're quintuplets. Only Yotsuba is interested in his lessons, so together they head to all their rooms one by one. Itsuki, also known as Fat Girl, easily turns him down, and Miku, the koala, repeats the exact same words as Itsuki. Nino isn't even in her room, and Ichika, well, imagine a dumpster vomited inside a room and you've pretty much gotten her life. She's undressed when our boy comes in, so he excuses himself. Right outside, Miku accuses him of stealing her sweatshirt and finds it on Nino's body downstairs. Nino had baked some cookies, and all the girls gather to eat, frustrating Futaro's efforts to tutor them. She ends up drugging his water, though, and he wakes up in a cab that Itsuki graciously pays for. She's about to leave when his younger sister, Raiha, ambushes her with a dinner request. Itsuki, being a sucker for all things cute, falls for the tears. As they eat with their father, Raiha asks about the tutoring, and they both lie that it's going well. She then announces her joy that they can take care of their debts now. She asks Itsuki to come again, and the punk agrees. She then tells our boy to suit himself if he wants to tutor them. He gets so excited and has no idea that all 5 of them transferred because they all almost failed. Ugly Boy arrives the next day with an offer to never talk to any of the girls that pass his test. Itsuki especially likes this offer, so she leads the way and the others follow. Unfortunately, they all score 100 points combined and make a run for it after failing. They see him at school and immediately make a run for it again. He proves that he's not there to tutor them and gets told that they can survive on their own. After asking the first question from his test, the girls begin to tremble, proving to Futaro that they detest studying, just like you. He decides to divide and conquer, starting with Miku. He tries talking to her during lunch, but gets interrupted by Yotsuba and Ichika, who talk about love. Miku gets shy, and they conclude that she must be in love with someone. Our boy gets a letter to meet at the rooftop, and thinks that Miku likes him. He wishes. He goes there only to discover that she only wanted to tell him the answer to his first test question. Ugly Boy then sees the Takeda crest when Miku's phone falls, and it turns out she's a freak for Sengoku period warlords. Of course, she's not proud of it. It's always the quiet ones. Futaro sees an opportunity and makes her feel like her fetish is okay. She follows up by asking him questions about warlords, and he answers correctly. Finally, he promises to make his next lesson about Japanese history, and Miku agrees to take it. On their way back, she hands him a soda and makes a snot reference, which Futaro doesn't understand. Because of this, she loses what little respect she was able to muster him and reverts to flunking his lessons. Our boy gets mad, heads to the library, and reads up as many books as he can before requesting a rematch. Miku and her signature headset show up for it, but runs away after the first question. He chases after her and she pretends to be Yotsuba. Unfortunately, he's dumb enough to fall for it until he runs into the real Yotsuba. He then continues chasing Miku, and they exchange names of warlords as they run. They continue to do so till they're out of breath. She takes off her pantyhose because of how hot she feels, and her legs only make the temperature increase. If you catch my drift, Futaro can't handle the heat, so he excuses himself to get her something to drink. This time, he uses the snot reference right and manages to encourage Miku, who feels like the loser in the group. He shows her the test results, and none of the sisters got the same answers right. Our boy believes that whatever one sister can do, they all can do too, so he declares that it's possible for them to score 100 each. Despite her disbelief, Miku joins Futaro and Yotsuba for the next lesson. Ugly Boy knows nothing about technology, so he gets stuck outside the Nakano building until Miku lets him in. As usual, Yotsuba helps him get the other sisters, and as usual, Ichika is undressed in her room that's as messed up as Asian parents. They all gather downstairs, except Nino, who taunts Futaro about drugging him again. It takes everything in him not to slap her back to the Ice Age, but Nino doesn't stop. She gets Yotsuba to leave for basketball, Ichika to leave for work, and Itsuki to leave for the library. Only she and Miku stay and argue over inner beauty. Futaro's stomach growls, and suddenly, Nino challenges Miku to a cooking contest. The sucker falls for it, and they prepare their dishes for Futaro to judge. With his unsophisticated palate, he declares that both meals are good. Dude was just hungry. Nino especially hates him, but Miku thinks he has a shot, so she tells him to keep at it. Mr. Dum Dummer forgets his flashcards and has to come back up, so Miku buzzes him in and warns him that she's in the shower. He gets upstairs to meet her with just a towel on, so he tiptoes to get his flashcards. Turns out that it's Nino, and she can't see him because she's blind as a bat without her contacts. She asks him to get them for her, thinking he's Miku, and when he wastes too much time, she presses herself against him to get them herself. Our boy holds his breath and then tries to run off. Just then, she blames Futaro for coming into their home and turning things upside down. Books from the shelf almost fall on her, and Captain Ugly rushes to the rescue. That's when she realizes that it's actually Futaro. Just then, Ichika gets home, and so does Itsuki, who takes a picture of the supposed crime scene. All the sisters convene to judge Futaro, and Nino fabricates stories against him. Only Miku takes his side, and this leads to another argument between the sisters. Our boy lacks the evidence to defend himself, so they all end up accusing him, including Miku. It really be your own. Itsuki suddenly postulates that the books fell and that Futaro was only protecting their sister. Our boy emphasizes on her point and gets vindicated by a hero's breath. Meanwhile, Angry Bird runs out on everybody and Futaro meets her sitting alone by the entrance. He almost leaves her there, but returns to sit with her. They talk about how she loves her sisters so much that she doesn't want to let Futaro in. Somehow, their heart-to-heart makes her want to never ever accept him. Miku comes down to check on her, and they both head upstairs together as Nino gives our boy the stink eye. Captain Ugly finally has the day off and decides to use it to study. He gets distracted when the doorbell rings and finds the crap fairy by the door. Apparently, her dad had left 50,000 yen for her to pay Futaro with. Raiha is already celebrating when our boy returns the money, claiming that he didn't teach them. Itsuki refuses to take the money back, so Futaro asks his sister what she would like to do. Raya uses her cuteness to drag both of them to the arcade and has the time of her life. She ends up taking a family photo with them, and as they leave, they run into the other four sisters. They mock Itsuki that she's on a date, and she denies it like Futaro is the most disgusting thing on the planet. He is, but she didn't have to act like that. Yotsuba ends up baiting Raiha into watching fireworks, and she, in turn, gets Futaro to agree. He doesn't let any of them go before they finish their homework, though. The girls handle Raiha, while an unfestive Futaro sits on a railing. He almost doesn't recognize Itsuki because she changed her hair, and Ichika scolds him for not complimenting her. All the sisters gather round, but Ichika leaves to take a strange call. Just then, Raiha returns with Yotsuba and a boatload of goldfishes and some fireworks. She's barely 10, I might add. The little girl hugs Yotsuba as she thanks her, and Bunny Ears loses her bearings, wanting to make Raiha her sister. When Ichika returns, all of them suddenly remember different things that they always buy at festivals and head out to get them. Afterwards, they break into groups. Raiha goes with Yotsuba, Ichika with Itsuki, and Futaro follows Miku and a very excited Nino. Miku explains that they used to watch fireworks with their mom every year, and that's why it's so important to Nino. An announcement comes on that the fireworks are about to start, but Nino gets lost in the crowd. She's about to fall when Futaro catches her and tells her to hang on to him. She does as she's told, and they quietly head to the rooftop for the display. Unfortunately, Nino had forgotten to tell the group the location of the rooftop, so she and Futaro watch the display alone. He bores her with fireworks facts, and she yells at him to express her disinterest. They then try to reach everyone, but only Yotsuba answers. Knowing how much it meant to Nino, Futaro offers to gather everyone and leaves to do so. He runs into Ichika, but some Hitler-looking dude stops him before he can grab a hold of her. He then finds Miku, but someone had stepped on her foot. As a weakling, he manages to carry her for 2 seconds before tending to the foot. They talk about Ichika and her man before he holds her hand to help her stand up. They suddenly get asked about the nature of their relationship, and Captain Ugly claims that they're acquaintances. This makes Miku mad, but she hides it well. The blind can see that she got the hots for our boy. She points towards Itsuki, and Futaro chases her down. She's so disappointed to see him, but follows his instructions to where Miku is waiting. Just then, Ichika pops up and drags our boy to a corner to warn him about telling her sisters what he saw. Meanwhile, Miku stands alone, waiting for Futaro to return. She remembers when he called them acquaintances, and also when Ichika told him to compliment a lady when she changes her look. This makes Miku tie up her hair. Can only be the hots. Meanwhile, Ichika tells our boy that she won't watch the fireworks with them because some urgent work came up. Her Hitler-looking colleague comes around and she hugs Futaro tightly to hide from him. They get to talking, and Ichika calls Futaro her friend. This surprises him, and he corrects her, telling her that they have a teacher-student relationship. She then says how hurt it made her feel, thus reminding Dum Dum of what he said to Miku. Ichika then confesses that Hitlerman is actually a cameraman and that she has been his camera assistant this whole time. They're still talking when the man grabs Miku, thinking she's Ichika. Back on the roof, Itsuki calls Nino to tell her that she's lost, but the girl refuses to give up on all 5 of them, watching the fireworks together. Low budget, Hitler is still dragging Miku along with an injured foot while Ichika and Futaro follow closely behind. He asks why she's skipping work, but Ichika refuses to tell him since he claims they're not friends. He finally catches up to Miku and unhands her from her abductor. He pulls her close to himself, and when asked who he is to her, he announces that he's her partner. The man then calls Ichika a young actress, to the surprise of all of them. Meanwhile, Raiha is skeptical that the quintuplets will still watch the fireworks together, but Yotsuba encourages her. Ichika ends up following Hitlerman for an audition, and Futaro chases after her, thanks to Miku egging him on. It turns out that Ichika could be getting her first major role, and that's why she has to leave. She makes Futaro read the script with her, and her moving speech about being a happy student moves him to tears. Wrong teacher, wrong student, but she let him have his moment anyway. Her ride arrives, and Futaro clasps her cheeks, telling her to stop faking her smile. He ends up confessing his predicament to her, and she admits her fear of bombing the audition in return. She then heads out, and Futaro calls up Yotsuba, who in turn calls Nino, who in turn calls Itsuki. You get the drift. Ichika arrives at her audition fashionably late and pulls on her experience with Futaro and her sisters to knock it out of the park. She and Hitlerman return to meet our boy sleeping with his eyes open, and he wastes no time taking her away after he wakes up. Dude had a snot bubble like a hot air balloon. He leads her to a park nearby where all the sisters kiss and make up. Not kiss, but they form a circle and light up fireworks of their own while Futaro watches from a distance. Ichika goes over to thank him, but discovers that he's sleeping with his eyes open again. She then cradles his head on her lap. Ichika ambushes Captain Ugly on his way to school and informs him that she told her sisters about her acting. He's unfazed by the news because it's not his life, and later gets worried when his teacher announces the incoming midterms. He approaches Itsuki first, but she ends up meeting the teacher for help just to taunt our boy. He moves on to Nino, but she tells her friends that he's a stalker and slaps him like your abusive father would. Futaro then meets up with Ichika, Yotsuba, and Miku, but out of all three, only Miku is actually studying. Yotsuba just tries her best to make them notice her new ribbon the whole time. All four of them later head home, but Futaro is lost in thought. That's until Ichika kisses his ear. This freaks him out, but she tells him to calm down because a midterm isn't the end of the world. The girls then head out to get some parfaits. Meanwhile, Itsuki chases down our boy for a phone call with her dad. Mr. Nakano threatens to fire Futaro if any of his girls fail their midterm, and our boy begins to sweat buckets. He doesn't tell Itsuki about it, and finds out that she flunked the quiz she took earlier that day. He tries to get her to accept his help, but her pride doesn't let her. This leads to them fighting and swearing to never teach or be taught by each other. At the Nakano home, Futaro joins 3 of 5 quintuplets to play Monopoly, but gets distracted by thoughts of the midterm. He tries to get them to study, but the red-haired devil comes to cause a ruckus. He almost apologizes to Itsuki, but Nino pushes him out of the house before he can. Thanks to Ichika's lie, Captain Ugly gets his first sleepover at a girl's house. He's soaking in the bathtub when Nino pretends to be Itsuki and discovers that he'll lose his job if they fail. She then barges into the bathroom and smiles like an evil maniac. In the sitting room, the girls discuss how long Futaro is spending in the bathroom, and Ichika urges Miku to make a move on him. He later joins them, cosplaying as a wuss, and sees an uninterested Nino at the dining table. All his efforts to include her fail, but Miku makes things interesting when she asks what type of girls he likes. He makes all 3 girls fill their answer sheets for 1 quality each. The first is a girl that's always happy, followed by one that can cook, and lastly, a girl that loves her brother. Nino can't help but comment, and our boy tells her to just study with them instead of eavesdropping. Meanwhile, Miku falls sad because she's the opposite of everything Futaro described. The hots, I tell you. He even claims that he doesn't want a date, so Ichika makes him pet Miku for doing well on her test. When he doesn't feel anything, she makes Yotsuba chase him to get his heart running. Itsuki comes to complain about the noise and borrows Miku's headset without talking to Futaro. Ichika then gets him outside and advises him on the matter. He pets her head and she blushes like a high schooler. Wait, she is one. That night, Miku gives up her room for Futaro and sleeps with Ichika, only to use the bathroom and return to her room. You can imagine our boy's shock when he wakes up to meet Miku in the same bed with him. If you know what anime this is, or if you have a suggestion for our next video, make sure to leave a comment.